what I'm doing is legal. This is why I believe I'll receive justice in the higher court.
Used to hit more to right and right center than the left. Oh, it is good! He did it! He did it!
It doesn't matter what your background is and where you come from. If you have dreams and you have goals, and that's all that really matters.
But there's only one Usain Bolt.
I owe, a lot to Charlie.
The freedom of expression that the entire world could see.
When you black, it's not a movement. It's a lifestyle. This is who we are.
Colin Kaepernick's career was at a crossroads in August 2016. Picked 36 in the 2011 draft, the 28-year-old quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers was on the comeback trail after shoulder surgery forced him to miss half the previous season. In the half he did play, he didn't excel. And the 49ers struggled, finishing bottom of the NFC West. This after reaching the 2012 Super Bowl and the 2013 NFC Championship game. When a run of 4 preseason fixtures rolled around, Kaepernick was out of the spotlight. He wasn't even suited up for the first 2 matches, meaning nobody noticed he wasn't standing for the pregame national anthem in protest at a spate of fatal police shootings of African Americans. It took 3 weeks before the gesture was noticed by reporter Steve Weich. Kaepernick responded, "I'm not going to stand to show pride in a flag for a country that oppresses black people and people of color. To me, this is bigger than football, and it would be selfish on my part to look the other way." Little did Kaepernick realize at the time that this solitary act of protest, away from the spotlight, would soon become the most divisive issue in America. After Weich's article broke, the 49ers downplayed any significance.
We recognize his right to express his feelings, but that doesn't affect what we do when we get here at 8:15 in the morning till we leave here at 8 o'clock at night.
But the United States was in the midst of a bitter election campaign between Republican Donald Trump and Democrat Hillary Clinton. And there was no chance any perceived criticism of a national symbol would be allowed to fade away quietly.
Wouldn't you love to see one of these NFL owners, when somebody disrespects our flag, to say, "Get that son of a bitch off the field right now, out, he's fired. He's fired!"
Kaepernick began his protest sitting down, but adapted after he was lambasted for disrespecting war veterans. He met with one of his critics, Nate Boyer, a former Seattle Seahawk and Green Beret, and together they agreed kneeling would be a better stance to take. You kneel to propose to your wife, and you take a knee to pray. And soldiers often take a knee in front of a fallen brother's grave to pay respects. So I thought, if anything, besides standing, that was the most respectful, Boyer said. As the political maelstrom grew around him, Kaepernick tried to remain focused on football.
I think people are realizing the injustices and the oppression that's taking place in this country, and it's something that needs to be addressed. I think it can have a huge impact on a lot of people's lives, and that's ultimately what the goal is, to affect this country and those people positively. As far as on the football field, I'm excited to be back out there. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to, be out there with my teammates and fight with them and try to get this win this Sunday. I'm ready.
But before long, one of the most talented athletes of his generation, would find that football was the furthest thing from anyone's focus.
Since the day I was born, my passion, my love, was being a quarterback. But what you start out as is not necessarily what you become.
Colin Kaepernick narrated his own life story in the Netflix biopic, Colin in Black and White. He describes his experience as an adopted child of white parents and his childhood at John H. Pittman High School in California. It is a life centered around football, but a story with a significant plot twist.
I was in for a rude awakening.
Kaepernick took a knee in his own silent protest, but he lit a spark that rapidly grew into a blaze. Soon, it was the major talking point in the NFL, with 49ers teammates pressed on the matter.
I respect him fully and wholeheartedly for that. He's not doing the popular thing, and that's hard to do, and I respect him even more for that. He has an opinion, and he's using this platform to get that message out, something that he feels strongly about. And I think it'd be foolish if you were to say there isn't an issue in this country with minorities.
And as media interest snowballed through the early weeks of the 2016 season, support arrived from rivals too.
You know, the reason these guys are kneeling, the reason we're locking arms is to bring people together, to make people aware that this is not right. You know, it's not right for people to get killed in the street.
But no matter how respectfully Kaepernick designed his demonstration, the backlash against it took on a life of its own and was soon weaponized in the growing culture war tearing America apart.
That debate about the anthem, about the flag, is the reddest of red herrings. The point is that we have injustice.
With the NFL's reputation as America's game and its strong links to conservative middle America, it didn't take long for repercussions to come the way of Kaepernick, the footballer. Unfortunately, the protests coincided with mediocre form.
This is not the type of attention Kaepernick needs. The 49ers may have backed his right to sit during the national anthem, but his play on the field might not get the same support with just 14 passing yards and limited preseason action.
During the 2016 season, Kaepernick featured 12 times, throwing for 2,241 yards and 16 touchdowns, as well as rushing for 468 yards and 2 touchdowns. And the 49ers had a horror year, defeating only the Los Angeles Rams, en route to last place in the entire NFC. The organization's front office moved swiftly, appointing Kyle Shanahan as the new head coach. His style was not suited to Kaepernick's, and the quarterback opted for an early release from his contract. Kaepernick had taken the 49ers to the Super Bowl in his first season and was widely accepted as one of the best signal callers in the NFL. He had proven big game experience and was now a free agent. He should have been inundated with offers. But his phone stayed silent. He met with both the Seahawks and the Ravens, but neither signed him.
Well, listen, if he wants to resume his career in the NFL, that obviously is going to take a team to make that decision, but I welcome that, support the club making that decision, and encourage them to do that.
Kaepernick eventually mounted a court case against the NFL, claiming he was being blackballed from the league for his political statements. After 2 years without a team, the league organized a private workout in front of all 32 franchises. But Kaepernick canceled the event over concerns it would be closed to the press, and he held his own smaller showcase.
The point of the workout was to show that he could play the game, was to show that he could throw the ball, and he did that. Colin proved that he can play this game. He proved that he can throw the ball elite. That's what an NFL executive said.
Still, nobody picked him up.
I've been ready for 3 years. I've been denied for 3 years. We all know why I came out here, showed it today in front of everybody. We have nothing to hide. So we're waiting for the 32 owners, the 32 teams, Roger Goodell, all of them to stop running. Stop running from the truth, stop running from the people. We're out here, we're ready to play. We're ready to go anywhere. My agent, Jeff Nally, is ready to talk to any team, interview with any team at any time. I've been ready, I'm staying ready, and I'll continue to be ready.
But while Kaepernick's career ground to a halt, his protest exploded. The U.S. women's national soccer team was one of the first to kneel in solidarity. In 2017, over 200 NFL players from different teams began to kneel. NBA basketballers followed suit. The message was getting through.
The NFL is in a very bad box. You cannot have people disrespecting our national anthem, our flag, our country, and that's what they're doing. And in my opinion, the NFL has to change. Or you know what's going to happen? Their business is going to go to hell.
Then, in 2020, footage of George Floyd being murdered by a white policeman spread around the world, and protests erupted across the United States. The issues that Kaepernick had knelt to bring awareness to were suddenly unavoidable. Kneeling became the go-to symbol of defiance. Athletes in sports across America and the world took a knee. At mass demonstrations, even police followed Kaepernick's example.
There's been a lot of talk about how horrible the rioting and looting is. That is no way to demonstrate. But people should think about the fact that Colin Kaepernick tried to demonstrate peacefully. What did he get? He got ostracized. He lost his job. He was blackballed. That was a peaceful protest about an issue that is very real, and no one could acknowledge that. We got to get to the point where we take these people seriously and acknowledge the wrongs that they are trying to identify and right them.
Perhaps the greatest indicator of the changing tide of public opinion came via Roger Goodell, the commissioner of the NFL, a league that had spent 3 years concluding Kaepernick and racial politics were too difficult to confront.
We, the National Football League, admit we were wrong for not listening to NFL players earlier and encourage all to speak out and peacefully protest. We, the National Football League, believe Black Lives Matter. I personally protest with you and want to be part of the much-needed change in this country. Without Black players, there would be no National Football League. And the protests around the country are emblematic of the centuries of silence, inequality, and oppression of Black players, coaches, fans, and staff.
Colin Kaepernick had finally been heard.
Cap was someone who stood up when times wasn't comfortable, or people didn't understand. People refused to listen to what he was saying. If you go back and look at any of his post-game interviews when he was talking about why he was kneeling, it had absolutely nothing to do about the flag. It had absolutely nothing to do about the soldiers, that the men and women that keep our land free. He explained that, and they refused to listen. And I did, and a lot of my people, in the Black community did listen. And we just thank him for sacrificing, everything that he did to put us in the position today, and even years later to be able to have that moment like we had tonight.
This is what courage looks like. This is the image of a man who was willing to risk everything to make the world listen to something it didn't want to hear. The story of Colin Kaepernick was supposed to be a story about football, but that's only the beginning. Marcus Rashford exploded onto the football scene like a firework. He was 18 years old when Manchester United suffered an injury crisis and turned to their youth team striker for salvation. He scored on debut in the Europa League, securing his place in the United side for the weekend visit of heavyweights Arsenal.
I watched him last night. It was quite impressive. Well, I know all of our players, and I think Rashford I didn't know.
But Arsene Wenger soon knew who Rashford was after watching him score twice during his first start in the English Premier League.
He's a good player. He's a very good player, and he was thrown into the deep, and he succeeded.
It was clear to those in the know that something special was happening at Old Trafford.
I think he's going to cope really well. He's one of them youngsters now that's got his feet firmly on the ground. He wants to learn every day. He's one of them that the manager has to tell him to come inside because he just wants to stay outside and play football non-stop. And I've said it from the time I saw him in the youth team. He's got a massive future ahead of him.
In no time, Rashford was an England international and FA Cup winner, and on the path to fame and glory. In football, this often means walking the red carpet and buying fleets of high-performance sports cars. But the modest Mancunian, who grew up on a council estate, had other priorities.
Being a Premier League footballer was always my dream. But when it comes with a lot of privileges and responsibilities. I know how fortunate I am, so I'm just doing what I can to help young people in the same situation that I was in when I was growing up. We hear a lot about divisions in our society, but amazing things are possible when people come together, and sport has the power to make that happen.
Marcus Rashford was about to show how much power he possessed and how to use it for good.
Only the best players in the NFL make the Super Bowl, and only the best players in baseball make the World Series. Neon Deion Sanders did both. In 14 years with the NFL, Sanders played for 5 different teams, winning the Super Bowl in 1995 with the 49ers and in 1996 with the Dallas Cowboys. He also played for 5 different baseball teams, making the 1992 World Series with the Atlanta Braves. An 8-time Pro Bowler, the NFL's 1994 Defensive Player of the Year, and the only man to score a home run and a touchdown at the highest level in the same week. It's no wonder they called him Prime Time.
When the coronavirus pandemic struck, Marcus Rashford used his status as an elite footballer to campaign for support for those hardest hit in his community. He began a grassroots movement, urging the British government to provide more food, especially free school meals, to children from poorer backgrounds, like his own.
You know, my mum, she done the best she could. I remember we used to go to a shop called Pound World, and everything was under £1, and you know, we sort of schedule out the week. She done the best she could within the circumstances, but there's some families out there like me that have 4 or 5 kids, so it's literally impossible for her to take control of the situation. You know, that this is all going on at a time where kids should be concentrating on schoolwork and stuff like that.
And to make sure, despite resistance from the Conservative government, the support for Rashford's initiative proved overwhelming, and he forced them into a high-profile change of policy.
You know, I'm just grateful that the Prime Minister did change his decision, and you know, he was just grateful that someone had basically just had an opinion and shared it with people, and you know, just been that voice for people that didn't really have the platform to speak out as much as they would like to.
the young footballer became a national hero.
It's a nice feeling, but I'm just more happy that you know, people's lives and, you know, people's summers especially are going to be changed for the better. So you know, that was the important thing that I tried to change going into it. And you know, coming at the end of it now, it's something that it's obviously a proud moment.
Rashford had elevated himself beyond the status of most footballers, and his impact was being celebrated nationwide. Even tifos were becoming museum pieces.
Firstly, it talks about this amazing young footballer who's used his voice and his platform to make a real change that's based on his personal experience of having free school meals and using food banks. So really kind of personal and impressive campaign. And secondly, the banner itself is an amazing fans' reaction to that. So he's a Wythenshawe lads, a local Wythenshawe group made the banner to say, you know, well done to him and to celebrate what he'd done. And the Rashford won Boris 0, it's a very football reaction. So we're very, very keen to get the banner.
But despite his performances for Manchester United and England and his work in the community, Rashford, like many other black footballers, still found himself the target of racist abuse. True to form, he didn't accept the injustice.
It's obviously disappointing. It seems to me like things have been going backwards rather than forwards, and you know, it's tough. But like you've been seeing all around the world, people have been standing together, and I think in this moment that's all we can do.
Abuse towards Rashford and other black English footballers peaked after the final of the European Championship in the summer of 2021. Rashford missed a crucial penalty. An enormous mural, painted by proud residents of his home suburb, was defaced.
It's disgusting, absolutely disgusting that, you know, the footballers should be treated in the way that they were. It's absolutely abhorrent. There's no need for it, there's no room for it, and I'm so glad that people have come out to support Marcus and the rest of the team as well.
Support came thick and fast for a man who had proven his credentials time and time again. Credentials that earned him an audience with the Queen and an MBE for services to charity.
Marcus Rashford, MBE. How does that sound?
A little bit strange, but obviously I feel honoured to have that title. You know, hopefully it inspires more people to do good things. Typically,
Rashford recognized that his accolade was more about what it represented for others, specifically his mother.
We were speaking on the way here. I said, "Are you nervous?" And she was like, "Yeah, she's dead nervous." But it's because she probably knows the history more, and then she asked me if I was nervous, and I was just like, "No, I feel like it's like the award's actually for you."
Now, as widely known for his work off the field as on it, Rashford is sought out to add weight to a range of good causes.
You know, I think Marcus is a good example of somebody who was passionate about a sport, excelled in it. It gave him a platform, and now he's looking for new challenges alongside with still being one of the best in his sport.
Marcus Rashford dreamed of becoming a footballer. He realized that dream at an early age. And now he's using his success to fuel the ambitions of others.
I grew up in an environment where people almost settled for what they was given. I was lucky and fortunate enough to have, you know, two older brothers that just love football. And they made my vision of football when I grew up was that it doesn't matter your colour or where you come from, you know, your religion. If you work hard enough and you put the hours in, then you get what you deserve.